Welcome to the Unsidelined Life, the podcast that challenges and encourages women to stop denying themselves a full life and to step boldly into the opportunities God is preparing for you. Join me for raw insights and engaging conversations to guide your journey of self-discovery and pursue the life that God created for you. Welcome to the Unsidelined Life. This is Eileen Noyes, your host. I want to review other things. Actually, let's see. You would have seen the compilation of the different guests that I have, and then you would have seen the last one. Last week's episode was on the 10 things I did not see coming in the NFL and that whole world and how I dealt with it. And so my guest kind of has a lot to do with me getting out into the world. So Krista Dunk. I met her through Movement Maker Intensive. This was part of 100X, one of their, one of the programs. And Krista was and is my editor. So she is near and dear to me. She's amazing. I have her on here because, as you guys know, with the Unsidelined Life, not only do I highlight and promote NFL wives and that pro sports world, I love to highlight women who I define and who God has given me to basically highlight as a Lady Bellator. So lady meaning royalty, Bellator is warrior in Latin. So someone who is really a Proverbs 31 woman, which regarding books and editing is the next book I'm working on. It's the Lady Bellator edition of Proverbs 31. So again, Krista is my editor on that, but that Lady Bellator is someone who is living out God's calling. And I have 4 pillars that I talk about in there, which are completely in Proverbs 31. She's the daughter of God. She is the bride of Christ. So wife of God, basically, as well as if you are a wife and you have a spouse, you're a contending matriarch. And you are an impact maker. And so I love highlighting women who are doing all those things. Of course, we have different seasons. Sometimes it's full on hands-on with babies. And then there's seasons where you can flourish more into those other aspects outside of the home. And so, or doing it inside the home, which is the beauty of being able to do your work while you're at home, while you're with the kids or different things. And so, Krista, I'm so happy to have you here. I know how much you've taught me, how my just natural love for writing, journaling, letters, and things like that, you have completely allowed me to sharpen my skills. You've been such an amazing asset for me with writing. And so I wanted to get you on here because in that world of like the NFL stuff, there's so many women that want to share the stories. And so when I think about that and I think about the future of how I want to help them, I'm like, Krista, you're going to be one of those women who it's going to be giving them tips and things like that. So I just did a little introduction, but if you can introduce yourself, family life, things like that, and then we can just kind of go from there.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Eileen. I'm so excited to be with you today. And I've been watching what you're doing with your podcast. And of course, I have been helping you with your books in the last few years here. And you always have amazing things to write to people. And I am really blessed to do this work. I'm an author myself, but I help other people often write and publish books. And helping people with the publishing process, editing, getting their books up for sale, and all of what that entails, and have a fun author community called the International Prophetic Writers Association, who I lead and mentor on a regular basis. Really love it. It's really an honor to be a part of the callings and assignments that I feel like God has given to people, and in this area of writing and telling stories and sharing things from his heart and helping people to get wisdom and all of what that looks like. I really love it.
That's awesome. And then, okay, so I've met your husband. So I want to get to that stuff. I like to get personal first because we know that you're a daughter of God. We know that your wife, as I had just mentioned. And So you have a husband who is actually connected to my husband.
Yeah.
And then with the whole motorcycle world that is completely not mine. I don't know if you're into that at all.
No, not at all.
So they're the wild ones, and we're the very I know I'm introverted. I feel like you're on the introverted side, the quiet side.
Yep.
And so so there's our husbands, and then you have how many kids?
So yes, my husband, his name is Chris, and we have been married now. It'll be 32 years this summer. I can't even believe that big number. But we have 2 young adult children. Our son's in the Navy. Our daughter's finishing up her last quarter in college right now. And so, yes, we live in the Pacific Northwest. Yep, that's us.
Okay. And then, so when did authorship become a thing for you?
That is an interesting story. So that was way back, probably in about 2008, 2009-ish. I really felt like God had walked me through some things in my life, and I started a Word document, just kind of dumping some information into it about that journey. And then I realized at some point, oh, I might be writing a book here. But at that time, I didn't know really how to do that necessarily. And so I hopped into this quite expensive author coaching program and learned a whole bunch about writing books and marketing and all of that. And so my first book actually was published in early 2011. So it's been a while now.
Mm-hmm. What was it? Was that the kids' book?
No.
Okay.
No. That particular book was called Step Out and Take Your Place: How to Discover and Live Your Everyday Calling. And I feel like that was born out of realizing that I had kind of, I guess, floundered, you could say, for quite a few years, trying to figure out, like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, I'll do anything you want. Just tell me what it is. I'm tired of like experimenting with all this stuff and trying this and trying that and having things not work out or whatnot. And having a little emotional breakdown one day, like, Lord, I don't want any more ideas. Don't even give me ideas anymore. I just want to know.
That's a good prayer.
Yeah, what do you want me to do? And so I started this journey and really finally like, okay, I'm ready to ask you what you want me to do and who I am and what you're calling me to. And I realized that at the end of kind of that journey, there were so many people still wondering that same thing. And so I was like, I'm just going to write some stuff down, record some thoughts, and just kind of went from there.
Yep. So this is not necessarily something that you saw like early on in your life, or, can I ask what you did before that then? Like where you were kind of experimenting?
So
that sounds bad, but
right. I feel like I've always kind of been an entrepreneurial person. And creative, like I wanted to create things and make things and whatnot. But really in my 20s, I worked for the state of Washington at a desk job. And it was, I did a good job, but it was kind of boring. And I felt like, I was like, I'm making okay money here. I'm doing a good job. People like me, all the things, but I feel like whatever I'm called to, it can't be this. And this is not really where I really belong. And so then we had children, and then I ended up staying home. And so I would experiment with all these different little business ideas, little side things, and all the stuff of just to kind of keep myself busy and to kind of get that creative outlet, entrepreneurial outlet, and all that. And and then my kids were kind of started school and I had more time. I was like, what am I going to do? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so, okay. So as you know, like as I'm doing this Proverbs 31 devotional, every time I get one done, we post it out, it's a way to just kind of draw people in to get on the waiting list. And then of course I send it to you. So they get the raw version before you edit it. But it's so crazy because this week I'm working on Proverbs 31:16. Oh, I wish I had it. It was basically saying, and if you know it, go ahead and say it. But it says she considers a field, and with her own earnings, she takes care of it. And so here I'm praying into this, and I'm literally getting into, which is embarrassing for me, but I'm getting into the part of this for me in my life where here I'm in the NFL and we decided I wasn't going to work outside of the home. But there was always something in me. I like the whole side hustle thing or trying to have something of your own. And I was like, okay, I'm embarrassed to say, but I've been into any and every network marketing thing there's been. I sold, health, like weight supplements, healthy chocolate, fiber mascara. Like I was like, I am going down the list and I've quit every one. And I thought it was me and I thought I was a failure. And so it's just like stirring up the story of, what God has created us for a purpose and we're always nudging to find it. And so it wasn't that I was like a failure. It was just that not what my purpose was. And so coming to that realization, it was like, okay, well, God, just like you're saying, I don't want to keep experimenting anymore. So it's so crazy that the chapter that I'm working on this week is the chapter that, or is what we're literally talking about right now.
Wow.
Which I think, I think God is so cool like that, because as I go on through the podcast or as I'm doing this book, I think this book is actually different because to me, and just like you're talking about, it's more of, okay, Lord, what do you want me to write about? Because this is not necessarily like these stories and, part of my testimony. So it's really partnering with him, which I know that you're going to talk about with the whole prophetic writing thing. But I just think, wow, God, this is so cool that you're literally like giving me ideas and hearing that I'm not the only one that was like, what can I do? Like, what little businesses or what can I do with my life? So,
you are not the only one for sure. And I have to come, you probably have talked some of this over with your kids too, Eileen, is like, I've had to kind of say to my kids, like, it's okay to experiment with some things. Sometimes we experiment ourselves kind of forward in life, and we try some things. Okay, what did I like about that? Okay, that didn't really work out, but I did learn this, and I did realize I liked this, and I realized I don't like this. So we can take things from those experiments, but I think ideally, we're listening. We have a relationship where we can hear the Lord, and then we're listening to what he wants us to do and moving, I guess, better, moving more clearly in a direction that he's leading, so that we don't spend too much time kind of sidetracked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm wondering, because I want you to talk about the prophetic thing, but so book writing, I would say that there was something in me probably when I first got married where I felt like I saw it coming. And here's this thing, which I'm still wondering if this is a title. So I don't know what year I was married, and I journal, and I didn't do any sort of formal writing. I mean, if anything, my writing was journaling, and then like the Christmas letters, or you write them out, or actually I think I did a couple of just different articles for some sports magazine in Wisconsin. But anyways, I just remember writing in my journal and pieces of the puzzle. I just wrote that down. I'm like, oh, Lord, is that a book you want me to write? Oh my gosh, if it is, I'm just declaring that this would be a thing. This was when everything was great in my marriage. So like fast forward to, I don't even know how many years. I mean, it's at least 20 plus years where it's like, Wow. Okay. That title is still kind of resonating. Lord, is this a book that you want to eventually have me write? Because the memoir part of the book or of a book is not anything I've really tapped into yet. And so I'm just wondering, like, is that something that you're trying to tell me? So I'd love to tap into what you're talking about now. Like, what's the difference? Like when you're talking about like prophetic writing and the things, like what has led you to that, or what is the difference from how you just looked at authoring and writing before?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've thought a lot about that because I feel like if I talk about prophetic writers and things, I think sometimes people automatically are like, oh, well, that's probably not me. But,
Yes.
they don't think of themselves as that. And, not that everybody is. However, I feel like there's a foundation for that kind of writing. And it's really found in who we are and who we realize gave us the gift.
Sure.
So, if you are somebody who feels like God has called you to write, He's given you the gift, the desire, the ability, the opportunity to write things that are going to make a meaningful difference in the lives of people who are going to read what you write. That means, really that you're someone who's decided to give your gift back to Him. And I've been thinking about that actually this week. Like, Lord, I give you my hands. I give you my words. I give you my writing. I give you my ideas, my imagination, my time. And that we can do that and say that. He gave all those things to us originally, and there are a lot of people who take those and do their own thing with them. And they write a lot of stuff just because maybe it will make money. And some of it's really unhealthy for people's souls, which really bothers me, actually. And like, I don't want to see our creativity used in ways that will harm people. It's almost like the drug dealer who says, I sell drugs because I can get money because people will buy it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they will. And I can write these kinds of really bad books or create these or whatever it is, just because it'll make me money and people will buy it. Yeah. But you're contributing to harming people's souls and minds and spirits and bodies, maybe even relationships, who knows? And so I feel like it's people who are saying, God, I want to bring forward and release things that you're saying. What are you saying? Like either things, seasonally for me, maybe it's just things you taught me and revealed to me in the past or are currently revealing to me. Wisdom, gosh, it could be so many things, but really it's things that come from His heart that maybe He's shown us, taught us, and then we're releasing that to other people. That is the essence, in my definition, of prophetic writing.
Wow. So, okay. So just hearing you say that, so it's not necessarily nonfiction. You're talking fiction.
It could be.
So do you do both? What are you drawn towards?
Personally, most of my books that I've written have been nonfiction. I do have one children's book that's out right now, but currently the two projects that I have yet to release that are my books are both fiction. And I'm starting a series actually. And
did you say both fiction?
They're both fiction. They're like,
okay, so it's new for you.
This is new. I've been working on these for a couple of years now. And It was an idea that I woke up one morning with a whole story idea in my mind. It was just there. So I've been developing that, and there's a lot coming in regards to that. But actually, in my International Prophetic Writers Association, I've started to give them this concept of prophetic fiction. We've been talking about that. And so that's something more to come on that.
That's cool because you would never, I didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah.
You just think, okay, Lord, it's like you telling me something, and it's typically like, an encouragement, a word of encouragement, or something that's happening personally to you. So that's cool. But that's where creativity comes from, is from the Lord. So, that's awesome that it's new to you. Okay. So, because I personally want to hear I'm like, okay, can you give us some tips? But so when you go from authorship, and then what made you go into the other side of things, like helping other people, and what made you go into that? And then what are like your favorite things about that, or your unfavorite things about that? And and then I'll ask more questions after that.
Those are good questions. Okay. So after I wrote my first book, something strange happened that I did not expect in the least. I had like person after person at my church or friends or whoever just like, oh my gosh, Krista, you wrote a book. Can you help me? Can I take you to lunch? And we talk about how you did that. I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't know what I'm doing. And so that kind of came up over and over. And one of the things in my first book that I kind of recommended for people is pay attention to what people keep coming to you for.
Yeah.
When it comes to like God's call on your life and maybe what he wants you to do, who he wants you to work with, and why, and really it's what people are recognizing in you that you can help them with in some way. And that could look like a lot of things. But for me, at that time, tons of people were just coming asking if I could help. And so I ended up creating a business at that time to help people with a friend. We partnered on helping write and publish books. And so I've been doing that work since 2012. And so that's how kind of that got started. Like I mentioned earlier, I love helping people in this way because it's fun. I get to read a lot of books. I get to hear a lot of things that God is doing and has done in people's lives. And I love that. And one, I think, kind of tough thing is being an author myself, because I do spend a lot of time on other people's projects. Maybe I don't get to spend enough time on my own or my marketing or things like that. But that's probably the only con. Otherwise, it's amazing.
Wow. So how much do you read a day?
I just got done with a 65,000 word manuscript last night for someone editing, and started another 34,000 word manuscript after that last night. Been working on that. And then I have another one coming up after that, which I haven't even opened that file yet to know how many words that is. But I read a lot of books.
Wow. And this is mostly on computer. I mean, it's computer, or do they send you the actual manuscripts, like paper manuscript?
No, they send it to me like in a Word document. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like I do.
Yeah.
So most people, or I don't know if they're like me. I send you a chapter at a time. So do most people send you their whole manuscript?
Yeah, often it just depends.
Wow.
I've had people, do both, but often I get like the whole thing.
Okay. And you do it on your computer, right?
I do. Yep.
Do you write on so people laugh at me because I've written 2 books, and then with a book that we've done together, which I didn't mention yet. And so so I've done all my books on my phone. So people think that, but I'm like, hey, that's, I was talking to my husband about that. And I said, well, it works best for me. Mm-hmm. So here's one little nugget is I do Word doc on my phone. So I will, type, I can do it. My thing is waking up sometimes at 4:30 in the morning, because that's the only undivided time I had. And I just start writing, and I will do that. Or if I'm waiting for a kid, Yeah, it depends on those. Like, I feel like right now I'm like, I don't want to say crunch time, but I really want to make it a goal to be done by, July, August. And so like, okay, I gotta like crunch out one chapter a week. And so yes, so I'm telling my husband, I'm like, any spare time where I've got 15-minute window, 30-minute window, I'm trying to write. And so he's like, oh, I thought you were scrolling. I'm like, no, I want to stay in the zone, because I know this much too, is that, once I was on, I think I was like writing once a week. So I'm trying to write every day, but man, that really throws you off. So if you wait that long, then you to get in that rhythm again. And so I know that, every little bit, a day helps. So again, like what I do is I have it on Word doc, and my proofreader is that I will play on the Word doc. Is that right? On the app, there's a read aloud section.
Yeah.
So it's also inspiring me. So if I write and then I play it, it catches my mistakes. I can hear my mistakes better than I could see them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just, it goes, it's like, I think, okay, well, I could say it better. To me, I feel like writing is also art for me. Like, I think people, and I'm probably giving away some of your nuggets, but I know one thing is I don't want to come out academically. It's the fourth grade level, like the reading level. I want my reading to be easy reading. I love when people go, oh my gosh, I could sit. In one sitting, I read through the whole thing, or it's an easy read, or it's really applicable. So these are the things you taught me. But yeah, so I think for me, especially as I'm on the go as much as I am, that just works for me to just write my books on my phone. But okay, so if you don't mind, because I really want to get into the prophetic thing, but if you don't mind, can you give us, I don't know, 5 to 10, if you know it, like real quick, what are things as a potential writer? Can you give us some major nuggets that is easy to remember? Because I know for me, when I heard you and I heard the things, I didn't totally have to just write it down. I was like, oh, that's an easy thing to know to apply. So if you can just do that for us, I would love that.
Sure, just toss out some tips. And I think you said a couple of things just now that are really useful, because you mentioned easy read. You mentioned also like how you're using little bits of your day, like to write and keep in that flow and keep familiar with your project and things like that. I also do that. I have to, find 15, 20 minutes here and there that I can write or self-edit or whatever it might be to move my project forward. I know there are some people who that doesn't work for quite as well. For me, it works great. For somebody else, they might need to set aside larger chunks of time on their calendar. They might need to give themselves a writing day even.
Yeah.
They might need to use some tools, possibly. There's some transcription tools that people can use if they are more verbal and they do a good job of telling stories or things like that on maybe their voice recorder or just whatever that looks like for them. And so I would say some of that is just do what works for you. Like you can listen to different people's recommendations and they might say, you need to wake up an hour early every day and write blah, 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 blah. And that doesn't really work for everybody. But just if you can stick with it and like you have your phone on you all the time, wherever you are, you're waiting at the school pickup line at the end of the day. You're sitting there. That works really, really well. I suck on my phone, so I can't really use my phone very well, but I use my laptop a lot and then my regular desk computer too. And so what works for you in the writing, just do that, but keep up with it, because it is difficult to, I guess, put your project down for 6 months and then come back. I mean, there's a wisdom in getting fresh eyes on your project, but at some point, if you know that it's a book, like God wants me to write this, And there are people who are going to watch this and are like, I know God wants me to write that book, whatever that book is. It taps you on the shoulder when you don't do it, and you know that's pending, and you know that assignment is unfulfilled, unfinished, partway finished, whatever it is. So just make it a priority to keep moving it forward, and you'll actually feel more settled inside by doing that. And I think sometimes when people sit down too and they think, well, I don't really have anything to write, I guess maybe even the discipline of sitting down and saying, okay, I'm gonna, for the next half an hour, I'm gonna write something. It can start to flow when you just start that habit. And also, I want to say, when you sit down to write, if you have an outline too of, like, you have to know who you're writing to. Who is that person? Who is that person? What is the message that you really are getting across in that particular book? Like, what's the theme of it? What's the message? What's the topic? And if you have a bunch of themes, a bunch of messages, a bunch of topics, maybe you have more than one book, potentially. So kind of keep things targeted to a specific audience on a specific topic. And if you have a lot to say, you probably just have a lot more books to write.
Yeah.
And then something else, Eileen, too, that you mentioned was the voice. If you want to have, like, what's your relationship with that reader? And it depends on why you're writing that book too, because sometimes people are writing a lead magnet type book because they have a coaching business, or they have some other thing that they want to kind of help people with after they're done reading, which is totally great. And in that case, you're going to kind of have a voice that's, you're going to want to, like, show your expertise, maybe be like their coach kind of already in that book. And then there are others where it's like, I want to have a friend voice. And I really just want to be like, I'm sitting with this person at a coffee shop, on a couch, or whatever it is, and we're just talking. And I'm just talking to this person, sharing with them. And then there's other types of projects where you might need a little bit more up level in that voice, more scholarly, possibly. Maybe writing something for doctors or IT professionals, and you need kind of a certain register, as they say, of language. So it's like, who are you to that reader and the audience? That's an important thing to understand too. So I don't know, those are just a few things.
Do you feel like you're living on the sidelines of your own life, cheering others on while your dreams gather dust? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. I'm Eileen Noyes, and I've been there too. As a former NFL wife, I felt like I was in the shadows as someone else pursued their dreams. But here's the truth. God didn't create you to be a spectator in your own story. That's why I wrote Sideline No More. This book is your playbook for reclaiming your purpose and living the life God intended for you. Whether you're an athlete's wife or simply feel stuck on the bench, it's time to get in the game. Sideline No More will help you discover your unique talents and passions, overcome the fear holding you back, and build a life of purpose and fulfillment. Don't let another day pass feeling unfulfilled. Get your copy of Sideline No More today at ladybellator.com/books. That's LADYBELLATOR.com/books. It's time to step off the sidelines and into your God-given purpose. Your adventure awaits. Like, prophetically, you are the one that, I don't know if you remember saying this, but you're like, I see you on a white couch and you're just talking to people. You said there's something about the ease of talking to me. And I've heard that over and over. And so I embrace that. And I do feel like I always write from that, that aspect versus authoritative. And not that that's bad, but like, I'm not a teacher. I'm like, hey, this is my experience. Like, what can you glean? How does this relate to you? And so I love that you help me to see that. And then you also, one thing, like, as I'm hearing you, I think about how you told us to write to a specific audience, or even to almost think that you're writing to one person. And
Yeah.
so when I did that, it completely helped me, because when you're thinking, and everybody does, and well, a lot of people do, I want to write to everybody, I want to help everybody. And so when you do that, you're writing, it just makes it so hard. And so when I learned to simplify, okay, this is who I'm writing to, and I'm going to start there. So that first book that we'd done together, that was Sideline No More. That was specifically to, pro athlete wives, even a little more into the NFL wives. And so I was able to get that done, I don't know, 6-8 months or maybe a little longer, but it was like, to be so laser focused on knowing that I was talking to them, it made that so much better, to where once it got out, then people outside of the NFL saying, oh, this book is for more people. Then I took that structure and here I was a couple paragraphs, God said, no, take this out, put this in, take this chapter out, which I love. I love doing this with God. I think I just think it's so fun, to write. But those are the things that I know that you help me with that have made a huge difference. The one thing I always think about you when I write, especially when I edit, and then I'll ask you about the whole editing thing, is taking out the word that. We probably took down a word count a lot when we say this thing, that, and it's like, oh, well, wait, let me take that word out, and it still makes sense. So those are the other little nuggets that whenever I'm writing, I do think about you. So when it comes to like the 15-minute, 20-minute writing, what do you think about correcting your work right away or editing right away? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, there are other opinions on that, but my opinion is that, take like just maybe 5 minutes to kind of look over what you most recently did. That can kind of get you back into that mindset and the flow of that. And if you see a few things, go ahead and change it. If you have only a certain amount of time though for writing, you don't really want to ideally spend that whole time just sitting there editing what you did before.
Making it sound perfect, like making like the perfect adjective and things like that.
Right. Saying that though, I know there are people like me who I have a really difficult time moving on if I know that there's a mistake.
Okay.
That's my mind. I'm here also. And so I have to kind of like, oh, I have to correct that. And I try my best to write things the correct way the first time as much as possible. But, I do go back and self-edit, and there's some self-editing processes that people can do. But as much as possible for you and the way your brain works, just sit down, write. If you have, like I mentioned earlier, if you have an outline, pick a spot to write in so you can at least get the meat of what you want to say out as much as possible, and do the bulk of your self-editing at a later time. Do a little bit, but don't take out all your time doing that.
Okay. Yeah. And see, I've found that, like you said, I found what works for me.
Yeah.
And so there are times I'm like, I only have 20 minutes. I'm just going to barf it all out. And I try to do that without editing.
Yeah.
And I've learned that just do it. Just write it. I know that's not the right, you'll find a better word, but if I just get it down on paper and get it on my phone, then when I do hear it, like I said, it's like, oh, let me change out that word. So it's like, yeah, it's just putting as much on paper. And then when you have it there, then it's easier to rephrase it or change it, make it prettier. And so I've found that works for me versus, and I've done this too, where I'm just stuck on a chapter because I just want to make it seem like perfect. And so that's one thing that I'm learning works for me. And also the transcribing, that's super hard for me. But then if I know just a couple of phrases, it's like, well, let me say the word versus it saves a couple of seconds and that all adds up. And so it's really learning to like what works for you. There's a couple other things that Oh, I don't know. I did this. I would write. Do you suggest going chapter by chapter, or do you go do you just write? So I know for the first book, I just wrote it wasn't a chapter. It was like, I'm just going to write whatever's on my mind for 30 minutes. And I did that for so long. And then I had enough content to hustle, piece everything together and then add on from there. Versus in this one, you're literally getting from me chapter by chapter, the first, chapter 1, chapter 2. Do you have a preference? Do you have advice, suggestions? What do you do? Or does it depend?
Yeah, that's really good, because my very first book, like I mentioned, I didn't know that I was really writing a book. I was just like brain dumping all this stuff into this Word document. And once I realized that, oh, I think maybe this is going to be a book, it's like, oh boy, now how do I organize all of this? I have a lot of content, which is great, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, it is a little more challenging to do that, but sometimes I think that might just need to happen. In an ideal world, and now every book since that one, I have actually started with an outline of some sort, or some kind of flow of some sort, for a couple of reasons. To keep myself on track, so I know I'm not getting into different, oh, that's actually for a different book, but now I'm just randomly writing it because it's on my mind today. But really, that's not this audience, this topic. So keeping myself focused. But then also, I think the outline helps me to write faster, because if I only have 15 or 20 minutes and I'm sit down with my document and I don't have anything else to say from what I was writing yesterday, and I'm like, I can just go to a different place in my outline and start writing there.
Okay. Yep.
So that's kind of how I do it now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. The outline works. So yeah, I'm comparing. So yeah. So, okay. So when I had my outline, and then I would just write randomly, but then I was able to, so piecing, okay, that's chapter 1, that's chapter 2. Yeah. Okay. So, as we're going more into the prophetic stuff, what is it that you're really doing now? And what are you wanting? What is God putting on your heart in regards to that?
When it comes to the prophetic stuff too, I think there's only one giant key for that, and that's just spending time with the Lord and hearing what He's saying to you. Because what He's saying to you, I think, is for you, but it can also be for a lot of other people as well. If you need the lesson, or you need the revelation, or you need a change in your heart, or a new perspective, or just information that He has, other people most likely need that as well. I mean, there are things that are just between me and Him, that's really not meant to be shared. And I think then we just have to become wise to understand the difference between those things. But I just see Him giving certain people, if He's called certain people to be writers and scribes from His throne room, we got to spend time there. And He has things that He wants to say to His people, to His church, to families, to business people, to leaders, whatever it might be. And we just have to have the ears to hear and take the time to listen. And that's, I think, a journey for people. I think, someone like me, if anybody can relate, you've just been your whole life kind of spending just doing. You're a doer and you get things done, and you kind of are practical and logical and all these things. And then to shift to just sitting and waiting and listening, and that can be tough sometimes. That can be a real change, a real shift to do that. But, to sit and with your Bible open and with maybe a journal or something that's there where you can just capture thoughts and things, and it can change everything.
Yeah.
I feel like you get pieces of his passions and interests and cares, and those can become assignments for writing and sharing. And so there are times I think he wants us to just write what I'm saying right now. And then there are other things where it's like, let's do this together. And so there's like the scribe, where it's more like, I'm writing down what you're saying. And then there's the project where you and he are working together on something, and it's a little bit of a mix of your stories, but it's really things that he did in your life. And so I don't know, there's a lot to that.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're saying that. And then I think, okay, like I can apply, what you're saying and put it into, like my writing journey. I remember when I first got the green light for him to say, all right, it's time, right? I totally thought, all right, I'm going to talk. This is the memoir. This is about all the things that happened. And it was not ever thinking of the bashing or the heartache necessarily. It was, Lord, I want to like tell people of the great things that you did, or the hard things that I got through, or the spiritual warfare, all the things that I just assumed it was going to be, that first book. And I know clearly that it was saying, and this because you read the books, but it was like, no, you're not going to come on strong like that because you're freak everybody out. You're going to address, and I didn't even know it was specifically to these NFL wives. So it's like, you're going to talk to them. You're going to show them that you understand, that you've been there. It was me really practicing, not only hearing God for my life and things like that, but for these books. And it's continuing in a different way. Like that, again, those are like testimonies and things like that. And how to hear him and saying it, just like you talked about earlier, talking about people in the situation that I'm in. It could have been juicy. It could have been like, hey, this is what can make money, and books don't ever really make that. But like, like it could be that one thing that draws attention to me, and I could use it as a way of kind of promoting, myself and what I'm doing. But that would not have been for his glory, and that would not have been honoring. And so to be able to go, okay, Lord, like, what do you want me to write about? Because those are, when people are writing about hard things, and we've talked about this, even legally, like, what can I say when it's nonfiction, or it's a biography kind of thing, autobiography? It's like, what can I say? And I think the biggest thing for me was, Lord, I want to do what you say. I want to write what you're telling me in a way that honors you, in a way that actually honors this is still the father of my kids, So it's like all those things, not just going, hey, I have a story to tell, and just, just blurbing it, blobbing it all out, So just some good tidbits. And I know that, like, just hearing you again and say, oh, it's like reinforcing those things. So, so you're in, can you say that again? What's it called? The international, the prophetic thing.
The International Prophetic Writers Association. Yes.
Okay. And is that something that you're in? Is that something that you're trying to help people do too? If you can, because like I said, I like to always like highlight you. How can my audience get a hold of you? And like I said, I know that I've got something where I would love to have you back in some, some future event for the people who I want to serve, because I know that you've made such a difference for me. Actually, okay. And then talk about, before we get into that, talk about the editing piece. Like, what do you look for as an editor? What advice would you give an author going to an editor? Like, how do they find an editor? What do they need to think about as they look for editors?
Okay, good question. As someone is looking for an editor, ideally, maybe it's someone who you know that has worked with an editor, so they have, it's kind of like not like a cold call. You have no idea about this person, but somebody else who wrote a book, worked with them. That's always a great thing if possible. And also what's a great thing if possible is for someone to say, hey, send me a sample of your work. Maybe it's one chapter or 10 pages or whatever it is. And they can give you in return an editing sample. So you can see if their editing style is like what you're looking for. Because sometimes maybe it won't be.
Okay, and just that editing style, I didn't even think about that. Okay. So people have different. Wow. Okay.
They do a little bit. I mean, each person their brain works in a certain way, and the Chicago Manual of Style is the style guide for the book publishing industry. And but still, you're getting a little bit of that person into your book, whoever that editor is. And
like an interior decorator.
Yeah, exactly. They have like a style, and they also have certain understandings. And, if you're writing something that's a faith-based like content and things, it's super important to have a person who is also a like-minded faith.
Yeah.
And so you're getting a little bit of that person into your project. So really, if at all possible, get an editing sample. And typically that would be, I don't believe most editors wouldn't charge for doing that. I have people send me a writing sample for a couple of reasons, so I could see what I'm getting myself into for the topic and for how much work their writing style might need when it comes to editing. So I'm thinking about like, how much time would this take me to edit? And but yeah, it's like,
are you throwing a lot of different? Because I know for me, I don't know how much you have to edit, but I know I'm not a perfectionist in any other thing, but I know when it comes to writing, I'll like check and so is there like, what's the contrast, and where would you put me? Like, do you get you're just like, oh my gosh, I gotta rewrite this whole thing? Or I don't know if I should, if I want to know that.
Do you want to know the answer? No, I think yours is pretty good. Yours is like, yeah, I always kind of know what to expect when I work on your stuff. This is our third project together now. And so I have other authors like that too, where I edit like all of their books, and I get used to the things that I need to watch for them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Your tendencies. Got it.
And yeah. And so, but yeah, yours are very good, actually. Nice work, Eileen.
You didn't have to say that, but thank you. And so will you turn people down if you're like, okay, this is going to be too much? Or do you, because I know we had talked about the fact that if it's going to obviously take more work from you, it's going to up your price because of the labor and all that stuff. So do you tell them beforehand, or have you actually said, we probably aren't a good fit?
I have had to turn a few people away in past years. That doesn't happen super often, but every once in a while. Normally, if I have to turn somebody away, it's normally because of some kind of content that I really don't want to spend my brain space on.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you have to think about that too.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, just thinking about all this, I think I don't know. I'm super engaged in this maybe because we're writers, but I'm just like intrigued by this conversation. So, okay, how can people reach you? What can you do? Like, what are you doing right now? And I don't know if there's anything that you would love to like, give our audiences. So, and then we'll make sure to have all this information on there. So,
Okay. Well, yeah, if I am fairly active on Facebook, so somebody could find me, Krista Dunk with K, um, and message me. Or if you're interested in the International Prophetic Writers Association, we have a website, internationalpwa.com, that people can go and check it out. There's some information about the group there. And also there's a free video that talks about the 12 steps of self-publishing. That's kind of just a free video that somebody could go and watch. And a little sample of my training style. My group, we meet once a week, and it's a lovely group of people working on amazing things. And I feel like if you're called to write, having a like-minded and a like-missioned community is really important to keep you going, keep you accountable to those goals and those assignments that you have, and also just to learn the things that you don't really know that you don't know yet, and to get better tips and ideas. And it's like, oh, you get a fuller picture of what you're doing and why and how from being part of the community. So, and I have books on Amazon, my books, most of them are there. And
is your editing mostly word of mouth?
It mostly is. I don't really advertise that. And so, yeah, pretty much word of mouth. And I can also help people with other parts of the process too. So like editing, even coaching before, like while somebody's working on the manuscript, but then editing, the formatting and interior layout and design, book covers, and a few marketing things, and then also getting things set up and listed on Amazon too, so people can get their books out there that way.
Yes, yeah. You have done. I couldn't do life without you. Well, Krista, thank you so much. We're hitting the hour. I thought this was awesome. I know that there's a bunch of people that want to write, and I know one thing that I just feel like, and I'm sure you know it too, but there's that thing, it just resonates where, again, you are talking about doing this for the Lord. And I know that for me, healing in my life had that was so key before I started writing, because that does honor God. It does glorify him. And it's just such a better representation to know that. Well, let me put it like this. I remember thinking, I'm on a roll with the book. I'm like, I'm going to knock it out during this time. And there was a stretch of time where I'm like, gosh, how come I can't finish this? But then looking at the end product going, wow, I'm so glad that God delayed it, because I'm a completely different person than when I started. So to just trust in his timing and to know as you're partnering with him that the end product and, it's the manuscript, it's a beautiful masterpiece, trusting in his timing. So again, you've been such a part of that for me. Thank you for taking my chapters, hopefully once a week. Anything else that you want to share as we close?
Well, I just want to encourage people. Something that you just said, I think, Eileen, is really a key when, you're going to write to honor the Lord and from a healed place, I think is really, really important, because like you mentioned, you could have written a tell-all, expose type of a project, but what's the motivation behind that? So we really have to take a look at ourselves and go, Lord, what do I need to get rid of so I can write this book in a way that honors you and actually really helps people have breakthrough, not just gossip and juicy things or whatever else might be. Like, Lord, what do I need to do in me
Mhm.
to make this book have the right tone and the right agenda, which is his agenda. And so,
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you again. Obviously our relationship is not done, and I am looking forward to the things that are in store. So I'm
me
going to
too.
keep you all in suspense, you too. But it's so good stuff. So I'm excited. But thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Until next time, love well, celebrate your strength, and discover the new things you are capable of. You are a light in the lives of those around you, and no night is too dark for you to find your way.